Hey people, it's not a story. It's not a Black Inventors video, so this is from IGN. Jerry Lawson, the black man who revolutionized gaming as we know it. Meet Jerry Lawson, the man who pioneered the video game cartridge. At 6'6" and 280 pounds, Jerry Lawson, a black man, was extremely far from the stereotypical image of an engineer, an inventor in 1970s America, or even today. But then nothing about Jerry's life was stereotypical. Black inventor and self-taught engineer Jerry Lawson was one of the few black engineers of his time, yet he was almost left out of the tome of gaming history. With his work on the Fairchild Channel F console, Jerry was the first to innovate the use of interchangeable cartridges in consumer gaming consoles, changing the landscape of the gaming industry as we know it. In 2018, the gaming industry's estimated worth was $138 billion, as built on the backbone of consumer flexibility, being able to play multiple games comfortably in your home or on the go. None of this modern-day success would have been possible if it wasn't for Jerry Lawson. But let's start at the beginning. Born December 1st, 1940 in Brooklyn, New York, Jerry Lawson was raised by his father and mother, Blanton Lawson and Manning Lawson in Queens. Jerry fondly gave his father the nickname of Scienceberg. Per an interview with Vintage Computing and Gaming that I'll be citing heavily in this piece, no matter how long Blanton Lawson's shift at the docks that day, he would come home to devour science magazines. Jerry's mother Manning worked for the city of New York, but she spent a lot of her time encouraging a young Jerry to focus on his education. She made sure he went to the best schools after interviewing the staff and teachers to make sure they fit the bill. She even became the PTA president in Jerry's grade school, which was composed of 99% white students. It was here that his first grade teacher, Miss Gubel, helped Jerry see a future success. In that 2009 interview with Vintage Computing and Gaming, Lawson said he told Miss Gubel, "I have a picture of George Washington Carver on the wall next to my desk," and she said, "This could be you." Lawson continued, "Now the point I'm getting at is this kind of influence what led me to feel I want to be a scientist, I want to be something." Which is why it's very important to have this Black Inventors series and to show young black youth that they can be inventors as well. Lawson was inspired by seeing Washington Carver, and hopefully someone else will be inspired by hearing about Mr. Lawson. Let's keep going. Miss Google's words stuck in his mind, and Jerry proceeded to deeply involve himself in his interest in electronics and engineering. At 13, this precocious smart kid built radios alongside researching how to start his own licensed radio station. He found out that if you lived in federally funded housing, you could easily obtain a radio license. So in Jamaica, Queens, Jerry did just that, often building and maintaining his own radio equipment from scratch. Jerry would often tell people that military engineering was good training for consumer because consumer products actually have to be stronger than military. He even built an effective small enterprise fixing neighbors' electronics. Jerry's love of taking things apart, learning how the things work, and then putting them back together eventually translated to studying engineering in college. Lawson attended Queens College and City College of New York, but he never received a formal degree from either institution. In the 1970s, after school, he worked for the Federal Electric ITT, where he encountered his first computer. He also worked for Grumman Aircraft and PRD Electrics, jumping back and forth between different disciplines and departments between the varying companies. In the aforementioned Vintage Computing and Gaming interview, Lawson told reporters that his work in the private sector is what prepared him for the wild landscape of consumer electronics. Jerry would often tell people that military engineering was good training for consumer because consumer products actually have to be stronger than the military. At that time, Jerry was one of the few black engineers in the field. When asked by Vintage Computing and Gaming how being a black engineer affected his job prospects, Mr. Lawson responded, "It could be both a plus and a minus. Where it could be a plus in that in some regard you got a lot of, shall we say, eyes watching. And as a result, if you did good, you did twice as good because you got instant notoriety about it." By the mid-1970s, Jerry Lawson made the big move to Silicon Valley to work on military devices for Kaiser Electronics, focusing mostly on aircraft displays. Jerry joined Fairchild Semiconductor Incorporated, where he received a better opportunity to work outside the linear structure of the typical office environment at Fairchild. It was here that he was able to go out in the field to market new ideas and concepts. Fairchild was an innovative company in its own right, manufacturing transistors and integrated circuits for electronics. Fairchild allowed him to become something no one had ever heard of, a recruiter for freelance engineers. In the 1970s, this was a bold move and a radical idea. If Fairchild had a Yelp page in the 70s, they would have had 2 stars, all citing poor customer service. Jerry recalled his first couple of months with Fairchild in his VCNG interview. "When I was there for the first 6 months, I said, there's a problem here. The problem is that Fairchild is not known for being helpful for customers. And I've got an image to overcome. How the heck to break down the image they have?" So Jerry worked to connect Fairchild more directly to audiences to provide a one-on-one experience. With the help of Fairchild's marketing department, Jerry was able to convert an RV into an interactive space with rear-facing screens, literature about the company, and a lab on wheels. The experiment paid off. It looked like something from James Bond, Jerry said. It even had a rear projection screen that came out of the ceiling. It turned out to be an overwhelming success, so they came back to me and said, "We want you to do it again." Jerry's foray into games started as a hobby when his old buddy, Pong creator Alan Alcorn, put the first Pong machine into one of their local pubs. Alcorn had issues with the coin mechanism of his machine after the kids continually jerry-rigged it to get free games. They'd stick hangers in the slot to fool the mechanism into thinking there was an actual coin inside, allowing them to play again, for free. Inspired, Jerry decided to make his own cabinet featuring a game called Demolition Derby. Jerry built his cabinet with a coin jiggle function that made playing for free impossible for the neighborhood kids. Fairchild soon heard about Jerry's extracurricular activities, which put him in some hot water with the company, believing that he was going to try and branch out on his own. Instead of firing the budding game engineer, though, Fairchild asked Jerry if he wanted to develop games for them. The project was top secret. Jerry would report only to the vice president. Lawson built the gaming division at Fairchild from the ground up. "I was the number one employee," he told Vintage Computing and Gaming. "My set task was to work on the prototype and hire a bunch of people to work with me, most of which came from Fairchild." The Fairchild Channel F system, as it was officially called, was always meant to be an in-home gaming machine. It was its cartridge technology set, however, that set it above its competition. Lawson and his team had to figure out how to plug and unplug the cartridges without the customer being slightly maimed by an explosion in the process. "We were afraid we didn't have statistics on multiple insertion and what it would do and how it would do because it wasn't done," Jerry told Vintage Computing and Gaming. I mean, think about it. Nobody had the capability of plugging in memory devices in mass quantity like in a consumer product. Nobody. Jerry and his team of engineers were embarking into unknown territory. At the time, it was unheard of to bring a multi-game cartridge-based system to the consumer. Gaming consoles like the Atari Pong, Sears Telegames, and Magnavox Odyssey 100 and 200 all had a finite amount of games programmed within the memory of the console. The Fairchild F would be the first at-home gaming system to use cartridge technology. At Alpex Computer Corporation, Wallace Kirshner and Lawrence Haskell conceived the idea of removable cartridges. But it was Jerry Lawson, Ron Smith, and Nick Tallis IV who cultivated technology and transposed it for consumer use. Jerry Lawson and his work on the Fairchild Channel F changed the face of the gaming industry. After the Channel F console, many companies followed Lawson's ingenuity to create systems with cartridge-based games. Many gaming companies like Nintendo, Sega, Atari, PlayStation, and Xbox have benefited from a format that extended the life of their gaming consoles. And thanks to the variety of games that could be played on cartridges and later discs, a multi-million-dollar game development industry was born. If not for Jerry and his team's innovation on the Fairchild F, the current iteration of gaming would not exist. By 2011, Lawson's long and varied career included his own company, Videosoft, and some consulting work. As time progressed, it seemed his historic work on the Fairchild F console grew into a distant memory. It was not until March of 2011, as reported by the Mercury News, that John Templeton, a publisher who was friends with International Games Development Association member Joseph Salter, asked if the IGDA ever planned to recognize Jerry Lawson's contributions. The association had reportedly never heard of Jerry Lawson. As Joseph Salter, a black man and co-founder of Atlanta-based entertainment arts research, recounts in an interview with Mercury News, "I was really emotional about it. As a matter of fact, I started crying, just for somebody like him to be left out." So Salter led the charge into giving Lawson the recognition he deserved. It was an unconventional, informal ceremony about which Salter explained to the Mercury News Lawson had waited long enough, and delaying his recognition for a more formal ceremony simply wouldn't be right. Lawson's story is too important. A month later, on April 9, 2011, Jerry Lawson lost his bout of diabetes. Jerry leaves behind an incredible history of self-made invention, and inspiration for young black kids who want to embark on a career in science. His advice is cited in via VC&G. Black kids need to understand that they're in a land by themselves. Don't look for your buddies to be helpful because they won't be. You've got to step away from the crowd and go do your own thing. You find the ground, cover it, it's brand new. You're on your own. You're an explorer. Think about what it's like to be, what it's going to be like. Explore new vistas, new avenues, new ways. Not relying on everyone else's way to tell you which way to go and how to go and what you should be doing. Which reminds me of something I said that was similar like this. I said, there's no place in this world for a black man, so you're going to have to make your own place. Well, let's give a good clap for Jerry Lawson for his contributions to the world. Like, I wouldn't be able to play the games that I play without it, and most of us wouldn't be able to be playing them either, except for maybe Pong or, that one with the battleship one, which is basically in space, the arcade game. But anyway, I hope you've liked this. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. If I support this channel, leave my GoFundMe in the description. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, I'll leave it there as well. Peace.